Right, hello everybody, welcome back. Now, just a bit of a random video here, really. I was out working portable this weekend, just gone from obviously filming this video. And by working portable, I mean away from home in my caravan. And at the caravan park I was staying at, there was a few people that obviously, give me a funny look while I'm working radio. And some people are curious, this and that. And I got chatting to a bloke there, a person there, and because he was kind of curious, what I was doing and how I was getting on. And he actually asked me how I got into radio. And well, it's something I've never really shared with you lot yet, really. So that's what prompted me here to kind of make this video, I guess. Probably won't be much of a long video, but it's, my channel is here for you to learn about me, learn about radio, and so yeah. Right, so how did I get into radio? Well, I haven't actually been in radio all that long. Probably about 6-7 months in total, really, to be fair. I actually started off, I believe it was November 2025, end of November 2025 anyway. Well, I say I started, I didn't really start then. All I did really is I bought a cheap handheld CB radio off eBay, faulty, spares and repairs. And it was I forget the name of it now. I can't remember the brand of it now. It's a really weird, it's called an Emergency 9E or something. Nothing special, But I bought it off eBay and actually paid £2.80 for it, believe it or not. And it was in really, really bad condition, physically and internally. So it definitely wouldn't work. But for £2.80, I thought, nothing really to lose, is there? It was just, I bought it because it was cheap on eBay. And it's just something for me to have a go at fixing. I like to fix electronics. I fix TVs, stereos, and things like that in my spare time anyway. So, something cheap to attempt to fix in my spare time. And if I couldn't fix it, well, no big losses. It didn't cost very much. Anyway, I bought this CB radio off eBay, and it was on bids. And obviously, I won it so cheap that I was honestly expecting the seller to, cancel the sale. Give an excuse, for the reason why they didn't want to sell it so cheap, But no, sure enough, a few days later, it actually arrived for my door. But yeah, so over the next couple of days, the box kind of just sat there on the side. And I didn't have any interest in the hobby, in the radio hobby whatsoever. Really, it was just plainly something cheap to fix. Cure the boredom in the evening times, really, basically. Anyway, after about a week or so, I sat there and turned around and looked at it because it was over there. And I thought, yeah, alright, let's dig it out of the box and attempt to fix it. Anyway, it took me a couple of days, I recapped it and things like that. And I got its power up and it seemed to be functioning. But obviously it was functioning, turning on, changing channels, the squelch, the volume, and things like that. But I wasn't actually sure if it properly worked. So I just went on Facebook, really, and I went on to my local Facebook group, and I just asked, is anybody on CB? I want to test the radio out. 3-4 hours went by, no reply. I thought, it just ended up getting thrown in the box, this radio, and I threw it at the back of my shed, Anyway, a little later on, got a reply. Yeah, I'm into CB, I've got CB set up. I'm at work at the moment, but if you wait until after 4 or 5 p.m, I can turn my radio on, we can see if it works. So anyway, that time came, and the bloke actually messaged me on Facebook saying, yeah, I'm at home now, my radio's on, if you want to give me a call, I'll see if I can hear you. I replied to him saying I'm not sure what channel I'm on, because it had like a manual dial, but someone had pulled the dial off, and you know, there's no telling whether it's gone on correct, you know. So he might say it's on channel 19 on a dial, but there's no telling if it actually is, you know. Anyway, so he's like, yeah, no problem, I'll set my radio to scan. He said, you give a call out and I'll pick you up, and I'll even tell you what channel you're on. So yeah, I put some batteries in the handheld CB. It took 10 AA batteries, and sure enough, you know, gave a call out, and yeah, he came back. He said, oh, you're on channel 30, by the way. You sound crystal clear, absolutely lovely. He said, if you was to tell me, you know, that's a brand new radio, I would have believed you. He said, you've done a good job at repairing it. It sounds great. It works great. Yeah, I picked you up on channel 30. So I pulled the dial off, turned it around, you know, to face channel 30. So it was all correct. And that was that, you know, I'd confirmation that the radio had worked. I didn't think nothing more about the hobby. Anyway, over the next few nights or so, me and this bloke will you know, chat and get to know each other and whatever each evening. And I found out he was literally probably about a quarter of a mile away from me. You know, yeah, you know, it's not very far, so you know, 4 watts and a little telescopic antenna on a handheld was perfectly adequate. So as I say, next few nights or so we'd talk, you know. But the issue was this handheld was just eating through batteries, you know. Every evening I was putting 10 fresh batteries in it. And, you know, that's a fair bit of money, you know. Anyway, we got chatting on radio one specific night, end of November. And he said, I've got a spare silver rod antenna at home in my shed. He said, I haven't used it in years. He said, I've got an absolute stack full of CB radios. He said, if you want this antenna, he said, you're more than welcome to it. And he said, if you want to pop round and pick a CB radio you want to have, he said, pop round. Anyway, I just said, you know, thank you very much. I appreciate the offer. I said, well, I don't want to just be cheeky. I don't want to accept it, you know, for free. I said, if you want to sell me the antenna, I will happily buy it off you. And so anyway, he sold me the silver rod antenna for £20. And over the next couple of days, I kind of got scaffold poles in, you know, and did my thing and put my antenna in the air. And he lent me a radio. I said, I won't keep it, just lend me it, you know, until I can get my own radio. I said, I'd be more than happy with that if you're okay with that. And, you know, sure enough, he was. Anyway, started chatting a bit more over the next couple of months or so. I'd say early December, we were talking on CB, and I really started to, you know, enjoy it, the hobby, you know. It wasn't just a thing to test the radio anymore. I was actually genuinely starting to enjoy the hobby. And so yeah, this was what, beginning of December. Anyway, we'll chat every evening for a couple of months. I ended up buying this radio here, and like I said, I had my antenna up in the air. I had this radio, and we would chat. We did that for a couple of months, you know, all the way through January. All fine. We really got to know each other. You know, we're still really good friends now, and we see each other often. And but over this course of the time talking, you know, we got to know each other really well and whatever, and we're very friendly. But by the end of January, you know, coming close to the end of January, I was beginning to show boredom, not in the hobby, but the fact that there's only one person to speak to on CB. You know, I mean, he's a lovely bloke. I get on really well with him even now. But you know what it's like. You know, I've got a radio that I paid £200 for. You know, and all I'm doing is speaking to one person on it. So one night, well, it was actually the 1st of February 2026 this year. And I sat on my computer one night, and I've looked around at my radio, and I thought, oh, I'll just flick around and see if there's anybody. I'll put it on scan mode and see if anybody crops up. And a couple of hours later, nothing, absolutely nothing whatsoever. So literally spare of the moment thing. I didn't think anything of it. I just said, right, let's book my foundation license. I knew absolutely nothing. I never thought I'd pass it, but I thought, just book it. Why not? It's £30 or £35. You know, just book it and see how I do. Anyway, I booked it 1st of February 2026, and then bought the revision book, the foundation revision. I received that through the post, I think the 3rd or the 4th of February 2026, and obviously from the moment I received it, I started revising it. So, you know, exam booked on the 1st of February, received my revision book 3rd or 4th, I think it was a 4th, and started revising, and then my exam was on the 10th of February, so I literally only had a few days of revising. And you know, considering I only started CB November, December time, I didn't know very much at all. So I felt like I had a lot to learn, and I felt I was just going to fail. It would be a waste of time. It would just be a complete failure. But anyway, so done my exam and I actually passed. So it was a bit of a shock to me, really. So yeah. The hobby, I didn't start off into the hobby with a passion for radio, to be fair. It was just a simple case of repair something for fun. You know, after a couple of months of chatting to one person on CB, the fascination was slowly dying, slowly dwindling away from me, you know. And it was honestly doing my foundation that really kick-started the hobby for me, really sent me down this rabbit hole. And now I'm absolutely obsessed with it. You know, I started off with a CB radio, and now I'm here, you know, after what, 4, nearly 5 months I've been licensed. Yeah. That's kind of what started me in the hobby, really. Nothing fantastic, you know, it's not like the case of, oh, my father did it, you know, I was around it growing up or anything like that. I wasn't. In fact, I don't even know my father, so it definitely wasn't that. So yeah, nothing special really, just the hobby grew on me, if you know what I mean. I didn't grow into the hobby grew on me. And what really did help as well, a little bit, when I was in CB, before I was licensed, I actually made a DX contact. We had a really good day of skip, you know, propagation. And I actually made a contact to someone in Massachusetts, America. So that's when the hobby started to make a bit more sense in my brain, you know. And it just so happened to be passing my foundation, my radio license, is what really kickstarted the hobby. Now, as I say, you know, I've got all these radios now. I've got 3 antennas up in my garden permanently, and they're absolutely massive high up. Some of them are about 40 feet and some of them are about 45 feet. You know, I'm getting them up as high as I can, really. So, yeah, literally another waffle video, guys. They all do seem to be, I'm aware of that, but no, it just got me thinking when that person asked me while I was away at the caravan, you know, what got you into this hobby then? This different hobby, what got you into it? It kind of made me think of it. And thought I'd share it with you guys. So that's what got me into the hobby. Passing my radio license was the best and the worst thing I've ever done. Best thing because I found a hobby that I absolutely love. But the worst thing is, wow, I'm spending a fortune on radio now. It's addictive. It really is addictive. Especially when you go on bands like the 40 meter band, which is 7 megahertz. And when you're scrolling through the band, tuning through, you're not picking up towns and cities, you're picking up countries, you know. So that's really what kind of opened my eyes so much to it. But yeah, there you go, guys. That's what got me into the radio hobby. Anyway, I'll stop rambling on now and have a fantastic day. Thanks for watching, and 7 threes.